Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ask Christa, the place where you can ask questions about how to work through business challenges and workplace issues. I'm Christa Dhimo, and today's listener question is about politics. Yuck! Oh, wait, not politics, but office politics. Also yuck. Our listener dreads work because of them, but I want all of us to forget what we know about office politics and shift how we talk about it. It's really office influence. While that doesn't make the bad stuff better, it does put it in perspective and offers you a chance to make some changes and maybe feel a bit better about office politics. Our listener submitted context with their question. Here we go. I'm in my late 30s. I started working right out of undergrad for my family's business, which is a big company. We bring in about $6 billion a year in revenue and have about 15,000 employees worldwide. We pride ourselves on running a culture that focuses on our employees who are empowered alongside their managers to make their work as efficient as possible without skimping on quality for our customers or value for our team members. After 5 years at my family's company, I decided to work at different companies to get a sense of how things work elsewhere and bring back best practices while also getting a sense of where we could do better and how. I shifted industries for obvious reasons, kept my background quiet, and learned a lot. 5 years at one company, then I moved on to another company, and now I'm back at my family's business with fresh eyes and experience. I'm so glad I experienced two different companies in a different industry because when I came back, I realized that our company isn't as great as we always thought it was. We definitely do place a big value on employees and culture. I see that easily and every day. But I also see that office politics gets in the way of making big differences that could make things better for our customers. I cannot provide details since you read out the questions, but I've come to realize how much I hate office politics. Help. How can I reduce the amount of politics I see in my family's business? First, I think it's fantastic that our listener took the leap to go into different companies, but also a different industry. Obviously, for non-compete reasons, they wouldn't stay in the same industry, but the move shows a thoughtful approach to gaining valuable real-world learning and perspective when it comes to a lot of what matters in business, how things actually work when it comes to running a business with good humans involved. I've worked in multiple industries and functions in my career, and while 30 years ago it might have seemed weird to do that, about 15 years ago I started to be asked to work with companies in need because of my rotations in and out of industries and functions. I fully encourage this if and when it's possible. Of course, my work requires a broad and deep view of how organizations work and can do better. But even if you're a specialist in a specific lane of an organization, I cannot tell you how enriching it is to move into different industries as you move into different organizations, especially early in your career as you're also learning what you like, who you want to work for and with, and what you stand for and against in a work environment. Of course, the purpose of our listener's sojourn was to, as our listener says, and I quote, get a sense of how things work elsewhere and bring back best practices while also getting a sense of where we could do better and how, end quote. It sounds to me like our listener got exactly what they were hoping for, a fresh perspective, a clearer and more objective view of their family business, and areas where there could be improvements, particularly in the camp, as they're finding, of office politics. So let's talk about office politics. Politics is derived from the definition around policy. Politics, in very broad and commonly considered terms, is about how to split up and offer fixed or finite resources through governance. In that way, it's about society. But the other side of politics, and this is where office politics comes in, is about status and power, or elevating status and growing power. I'll include the Merriam-Webster definition in the show notes because you can find additional information there related to terms like playing politics, alongside 5 official definitions of the word, which then include multiple facets of each definition. In either case, the primary driver of politics, either from a governing perspective or a status power office perspective, is most times influence. And when it comes to office politics, which is often about status and power, I want you to instead think about influence. I also want you to be open to considering that not all office politics are toxic. If you unseat a bad CEO who has a terrible, terrible history of behaving, and the new CEO comes in and is the opposite type of person, because the board was really smart about bringing in someone who could rebuild trust and various other aspects of organization's foundation and performance because of the cultural breakdown that occurs when you have a CEO who behaves badly. The new CEO will have to play politics. That doesn't mean they have to be conniving or coercive or manipulative, as most would probably think of when they hear the term playing politics. But it does mean the new CEO has to maneuver in a likely broken environment, with toxic politics likely everywhere, from the executive team down, within a culture that's probably used to surviving through a blurry sense of status and power versus thriving because of clarity and effective leadership. Clarity and effective leadership aim to uplift the organization, advance the goals, improve anything aligned with performance that can also bring out the best in your employees every day. Former CEOs with a history of terrible behaviors, or any person in power, including frontline managers and supervisors with a history of terrible behaviors, absolutely blur workplace clarity, where it's no longer about good, effective work getting done, but who's in a position to influence what work is done, when, and by whom. And the toxic politics mean it's about power and status and only specific people getting things because of that power and status. It also just feels really icky. But there are good politics where employees still use influence from a position of power and status, but they do so to elevate and enable better decisions and raise up those who need it while offering additional support to those in need. Think about your favorite manager, if you've had one yet. How did that person look out for you? How did that person offer a promotion or plan a promotion with you? Enable a rotation into different teams so you could work toward a promotion if that's what you needed. Make sure you didn't leave the company. You saw an experienced and effective manager, and others saw a good manager looking out for their team members. But in the end, it's also about influence. Sure, for a promotion, they probably had evidence of your good work and lined everything up to make sure the promotion went through, but I guarantee they also talked to multiple peers, various leaders, and perhaps even clients to gather all the reasons why, evidence, you deserved that promotion, and that was to influence the decision for your promotion when in the room talking about why you deserved that promotion. That's good politics. So, not all politics are toxic, but when they are toxic, they are really toxic. And I know this. We all know this. Most of us have lived it. We've seen it up close, and we can probably sense it a mile away. The toxic politics are conniving and coercive and manipulative. They include behaviors that aim to depress and suppress others as a means to elevate those using the politics, elevate their status and power. We don't know what our listener sees in their family's business in terms of office politics, but it's probably related to what everyone typically refers to as land grabs or jockeying for position, ways some will gain influence and play politics as a means to amass more teams or more responsibility and control, elevate their status, and even aggressively pursue a promotion, whether it's deserved on merit or not. And that's about power. So let's talk about ways to manage office politics, because we all hate the toxic type, but as long as you're working with humans, you're going to experience politics. Anytime I'm working with those immersed in the land of politics, usually those in management and leadership positions, including executives and board members, I slice through the politics by starting and ending all discussions with the company's objectives for the year. It's the great equalizer and politely reminds everyone where the focus needs to be in order to get the performance where that needs to be, or if you're lucky enough, where it needs to be sustained. So in the face of toxic office politics, I want you to start there too. It's a grounding exercise that forces perspective where you can say, hey, everyone, this is what we're here to do. Let the company objectives relieve you from the snarly mess that toxic office politics can often bring with them, because it's not about the toxicity of a company. It's about what you're all aiming to get done. Yes, I know, it's harder than that. I get it. So from there, I usually ask people to make 3 columns on a piece of paper, old school style. And in the first column or section, write a list of what you feel when you think of the toxic politics in your workplace. Just get them out. Icky, powerless, stressed, coerced, overlooked, belittled, disrespected. Obviously, we want to reduce those feelings, but putting them down on paper enables you to have some level of focus and awareness when you experience toxic office politics. In the second column, or the middle column, write down how you want to operate in a workplace environment. How do you want to work? With respect and dignity, listened to, understood, valued, able to get good work done, meet goals, work effectively, use my time wisely, collaborate. The second column, that's how you want to work. But notice I didn't ask anything about office politics. That list is simply how you want to work. And chances are, they're all really good arguments for why you deserve to work in an environment where toxic office politics aren't impacting you so much that you feel what you wrote down in column 1 all the time while at work. The third column I'm going to leave to you to continue working on as you wish, because this is a shorter question answer segment. But in this column, I want you to write out your action plan to learn about and then effectively manage toxic office politics in a way that suits you. For our listener, it might be that they go to the tippity top of the company, presumably a family member, and report out the findings. Perhaps they say, "Have you noticed how toxic politics impacts our customers? I think it's time to evaluate what we stand for and consider what we can do to get it under control." You can even list out how toxic office politics impacts performance and trickles down to the customer. There are studies that talk about that, and I'll have information where you can learn more about managing toxic office politics in the show notes, where you'll also learn a few specifics about the impact to business overall. Something else to consider for a listener: it's possible that the politics have always been a part of the culture, but they're just seeing them now that they've been to 2 other companies across the last several years. Of course, if the toxic office politics are coming from the family members all the way up to the top, that's a bit different, and probably best for a different episode of Ask Christa. For your resources, I start with one that will help you all with that third column for your action plan as you learn how to manage through toxic office politics. The article is from Niven Postma called "You Can't Sit Out Office Politics," and it was published in Harvard Business Review in July 2021. It's a wonderful perspective from someone who shares wisdom and what it takes to navigate the choppy waters of toxic office politics. The writer even admits right up front that they refused to engage in office politics for a while, in the beginning and the middle of their career, to no avail. And remember, you can sign up for a free account at HBR. You'll have access to a certain number of articles each month. Next up, Ginny Clark, a leadership expert who places an emphasis on culture, conscious choice, and accountability. Her impressive background is in executive recruiting and strategic talent management, and it shows. She does a lot of work in conscious leadership, which focuses on leading with deep purpose and a high level of self-awareness. I'm not affiliated with her work, but as an organization performance expert, I certainly appreciate it. You'll see she uses a lot of tried, true, and evidence-based best practices when it comes to things in the workplace, but there are 2 videos that talk specifically about politics. She goes through what politics mean, how to use and manage them effectively, and how to get the best out of the good humans you're working with when, if, and while the more toxic office politics may be in the midst. Again, I'm offering 2 videos. One is the first video she posted about office politics, and it's called "Office Politics: How to Rise Above While Getting Ahead." It's from December 2024. It runs about 8 minutes. She goes through a quick review of what it might look like, some of the behaviors that come along with it, and it's a wonderful video and will probably be very therapeutic for many of you. The second was posted a month later in January 2025, and it's called "Office Politics: The Game You Must Learn to Play." Her guest is Kalia Rouse, founder of Real Well Media, and with a duration just under 15 minutes, she dives deeper into more specific behaviors and situations with toxic office politics, and it's done in an interview style. The most replayed portion of the video, when Ginny Clark talks about how, quote, "meek doesn't mean weak," end quote, and how a quieter disposition doesn't mean you don't have power or a voice. Check it out. And there it is for episode 43 of season 4, where we're focused on doing the work. Submit your question on my show's site, askchrista.com. That's Christa with a CH, where you'll see all of my episodes listed by category and season. While you're there, sign up for my More Answers newsletter, where you'll receive additional content on Sunday nights to set you up for the work week. As always, thank you for your support. And remember, if you have a business challenge or workplace issue, Ask Christa.